Hello everyone, my name is Marcella Labrador and I am your professional learning specialist. My email is down below, Marcella L for Labrador at IXL.com. I will be talking to you about IXL foundations and implementation strategies so that you can be successful at implementing IXL into your classroom. The first thing you need to know is that you guys have your own specific account and custom domain page. So that just simply means that Bluffview Elementary School has their own custom sign-in page for both staff and students. In order to get to this site that looks just like this, you're going to go ahead and use the URL here in step 1. And then on top of that, if you ever want to create a teacher account or a second or third teacher account, go ahead and just create and activate your account by clicking on the tab underneath the sign-in area and go ahead and put the activation key in, which is the Bluff 487. So the first thing you need to know about IXL is that we are a comprehensive K-12 curriculum. We also provide a personalized learning experience for all of our students. So you guys have math and language arts. You have licenses for grades 1 through 6 for both math and language arts. But although you guys might be teaching 1 through 6 or are elementary school teachers, you actually do have access to all of our math curriculum and all of our language arts curriculum. So that means that you'll have access to our pre-K through calculus curriculum and pre-K through 12th grade curriculum. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to give you the opportunity to have a resource that you feel comfortable and confident using that would best support you in differentiation and small group instruction and truly individualizing and personalizing to each individual student depending on where they're at, whether it's below, above, or on grade level. And then another thing you need to know about us and our design is that there are two things. We have two different themes going on within our IXL program. You're going to see many of our features are going to support the first theme, which is the teacher theme, which is supporting teachers in small group instruction and differentiation. And then the second theme you're going to see is going to be the student theme and how IXL supports students in engagement, student autonomy, and taking ownership over their educational journey. On top of that, what else you're seeing is that we have a design that includes an open architecture. So with that open architecture, of course, as I mentioned, you have access to all of our K-12 curriculum, but on top of it, we also are a computer-generated program. You're going to see that our math curriculum does not have a question bank, so students will truly have that personalized learning experience as they're practicing. Our program will slowly start creating different practice problems for them depending on their responses. So it is adapting to each individual student's ability in real time. On top of that, we are student paced. So you're going to notice that our program is going to allow students, no matter what, to always go back into time, click on a specific skill, and continue persevering until they hit mastery or proficiency. So although you and your curriculum and your lesson plans might have moved on from a specific skill or unit, students always have the autonomy to go back into time and persevere until they hit proficiency and mastery. And then on top of that, we also are student-paced and we rely solely on teachers to create and identify how much time students might actually need individually or whole class to hit proficiency and mastery within a specific skill. Here's our agenda today. We will be talking about selecting skills, communicating skills, rostering students, the student perspective, teacher analytics, and then of course any extra resources we might have. So the first thing you need to know is how to select skills. When you go in and you log into IXL with your teacher account, you will see that your name is up in the upper right-hand corner. Automatically, it will default you to your analytics page, as that is what we think is most important to teachers, right? We obviously want to know about the data so that we can use that data and those numbers for data-driven instruction. But right now, in order to find, select, and communicate skills, we're going to be under the Learning tab. So go ahead and click on the Learning tab with me. When you've gone to the Learning tab, you're going to see that it's going to automatically default to either math or language arts, whichever one you have preferred. On top of that, not only is it going to default to math and language arts, but also you're going to see it will naturally default to the grades view. When it defaults to the grades view, that simply just means that what you're seeing is on the left-hand side, you see all of our grades, pre-K all the way through calculus. You have the opportunity as a teacher to click on any specific grade level, so go ahead and I'm going to click on 5th grade. When you click on 5th grade, what you're seeing is that we have hundreds of skills that support 5th grade curriculum. We obviously would never expect you to actually have your students practice every single one of our skills, as there's way too many skills to get through the whole entire year. And so in that case, what we do suggest is that you just use IXL to the best of your ability in whatever realm is going to be best for both you and your students. IXL is very flexible. We encourage you to use it however is going to work best. And so what you're going to see here is that as I've shown you, we have multiple skills, hundreds of them per grade level. And also on top of that, you're seeing that our skills are actually in alphanumerical order. So you're seeing 8.1 is going to be the least rigorous skill that we have to offer when it comes to 5th grade math in the topic of place values and number sense. And then these are building blocks, so these skills do build upon each other, leading to 8.12 being the most rigorous skill we have to offer when it comes to place values and number sense within the 5th grade math curriculum. Now, because we suggest that you use IXL in a very flexible manner, you do not need to start at 8.1 and then go directly to 8.2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then end at 8.12 to move on to B.1. Instead, we encourage you to use our skill preview. You can find our skill preview by hovering over any skill. When you see that skill preview, what you're seeing is that you actually have the ability to see 4 different examples of what your students would be prompted to answer if you were to assign this assignment to your students. The skill preview gives you a really nice idea of what your students would be prompted to answer, and then being able to determine if that's exactly what you would like to assign to your students. Maybe it's too difficult, maybe it's too easy, maybe it's exactly right on, spot on with what you're teaching in your lesson plan, and so you would like to assign this skill to your students. On top of seeing 4 different item types that your students would be asked to answer, you also are going to see 4 different levels of rigor that we provide within the specific skill of 8.8. Now, once you have determined that this is a specific skill that you would like to assign to your students, there are a couple ways that you can assign skills. The first way is, as you can see, when you hover over, not only is there a skill preview to the right-hand side, but to the left, you're going to see a gray star. If you go ahead and click on that gray star, you have then now highlighted this skill using the star feature. When you highlight this skill using the star feature, when students log in, they will actually see all of the highlighted skills that you've starred, and they now know that those are the assignments that you would like them to do for that day or for maybe that week. On top of this star feature will assign the assignment or be highlighted or suggest as a visual cue to every single student in your roster that this is the assignment you would like them to do. On top of this, these skills do not become unhighlighted even if all of your students have hit mastery in the skill. The skill will become unhighlighted once you as the teacher go in and unclick all of the stars and then re-click specific skills that you would like them to do next. Great, so that is one way that you can communicate or assign assignments to students. Now, before I teach you the other way to actually assign assignments to students, what I would like to talk to you about is the opposite view, the topics view. Many teachers really enjoy the topics view because it's a great way to differentiate. If you click on topics, what you can do is you can actually click on any of the topics here. So I'm going to go ahead and go with algebra. By clicking on algebra, now you're seeing all of the skills that align to our algebra content, but instead of being categorized by specific topics, they're now categorized by specific grade levels. Teachers truly enjoy this view simply for those students who might be a little bit behind. Maybe you teach an Algebra 1 class, and so some of your students are behind and might need some 8th grade level skills that align to algebra to be prepared for your Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 class. As you can see, you can still use the star feature here on the topics view. And as well as you can see, you can actually have different stars in different topics and different grade levels. So you can have stars in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, 5th grade, 7th grade. It does not matter how many stars you have. And then on top of that, if you wanted to know how these skills align to your standards, what you can do is, mine is on Tennessee right now. I apologize, as that was the last session I did. But what you can do is you can go all the way to the right-hand side and click on either Common Core or Standards. When you do so, bear with me, I know it's Tennessee, but when you do so, it will automatically default to Math or Language Arts. You can click on either one. You then have the opportunity to click on any of the specific grade levels. Right now we're on 3rd. So let's pretend that these are your standards. You would see your standards in the black bolded text here. Anytime you see black bolded text, that is the standard that you are used to seeing in your curriculum. And then anytime you see any hunter green skills with the bullets next to it, those are going to be all of the IXL skills that best align and best support this specific standard. You have the opportunity to print these. You can still hover to see skill previews. And you know what skill codes they are and what grade level it aligns to right here. 3rd grade skill code E.2. And then the last way that you can actually search for a specific skill is up here at the top using the search engine. If I type in something as simple as pronouns and then clicks the search bar, what we're seeing now is that we have 144 skills that align to pronouns within IXL. So here we're starting to see all of the skills that align to pronouns or correlate to pronouns, and then on the right-hand side, we're seeing all the grade levels they align to. If you wanted to see maybe pronoun skills for only 5th graders, you could filter by grades, click on 5th grade, and now you're looking at all the pronoun skills that filter by 5th grade. Again, you can hover over to see a skill preview for lesson planning purposes, and you know that this is a 5th grade skill and the skill codes are C.1, C.2, C.5, etc. So when you do go back to the Learning tab and click on grade 5, you know that the specific skills you just saw were right. Oh, that was for language arts, sorry. You know that the specific skills, when you click on grade 5, are going to be C.1, C.2, C.5. And then lastly, the second and third way that you can actually communicate skills to students is using a learning management system. So one way, once again, that we already discussed is using the STAR feature. A second way is just doing it old school and saying, all right, listen up, students, on the board, you're just putting 5th grade and then you're putting the skill code G.1. So all students know they click on 5th grade, look for the skill code G.1. The third way that you can communicate skills is by using these individual URLs. So each skill has its own URL. So you can truly just right click, copy link address, and paste it into a learning management system or a Google Doc or an email or a personal teacher website you might have underneath assignments tabs. And then if you're not very tech savvy and you're not so hot at right clicking and copy and link address, what you can do is actually click on the specific skill. When you click on the specific skill, then what you can do is you can actually so sorry, I got distracted with the timer. I wanted to make sure I was actually recording for you guys. That would be terrible if I wasn't. So once I actually click on the specific skill, you can go up to the top and you can copy and paste the actual URL for this specific 5th grade G.1 skill into, once again, a Google Doc, an email to students, a personal website, or any learning management system. And if you happen to use the learning management system Google Classroom, what you can do is you can click on the skill, 5th grade G.1 or any other skill, and you can go all the way down here to the bottom right-hand corner. You will see some sharing icons. You can click on Google Classroom. When you click on Google Classroom, it'll automatically sign you into your Google Classroom account, and then from there you can just use the normal Google Classroom that you're used to. You can assign this skill as an assignment, a post, a quiz. You can differentiate within your roster by different blocks or periods or subjects, or even individualize the homework assignment. You can give due dates, and you can also give explanations and titles. And so when students do log into their Google Classroom account and they click on your name or your class, what will ultimately end up happening is they will see this URL there. They will click on the URL. It will bring them directly to this page where it's prompting them to start practicing the skill. And before they can actually practice, a pop-up box will appear asking them to sign in so all of their data is being saved. Okay, so now that we know about how to assign skills and select skills, I'm going to now talk to you about our skill adaptation. So we're going to talk about the student's perspective during a skill practice. The first thing you need to know is that students, when they log in and they click on a specific grade level, here this student has clicked on 3rd grade. They are now on the 3rd grade math page. You see that they can see the assignments that you as the teacher have given them through the STAR feature, but also they can use this as a student quick progress check, as they can see their most accurate up-to-date SMART score here in parentheses to the right of each individual skill. So here, because the student has hit mastery of 100, they see a gold medal. But over here, they're seeing a SMART score of 96, which means that they are in the challenge zone past excellence and proficiency levels, and they're well on their way towards mastery. And here, a 0 does not mean that they have not ever practiced the skill, but instead, the 0 means that they have practiced the skill, but they have not actually answered any questions correctly yet. So if we had time, I would actually have you find the skill grade 7 J.1 and experience it as a student for 2 minutes, just kind of answering questions right and wrong and seeing your SMART score go up and down and see the skill progression that happens during IXL. As I mentioned earlier, we are adaptive and we adapt to student responses. But instead, I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So here's our skill adaptation. All skills have different levels of rigor. So right now we're in grade 7 skill code G.1. All students will start in this skill at level 1, ratio to total. Here we're being asked to define what the ratio is from purple teapots to total teapots. Because it's level 1 and it's a very foundational skill, almost as a review or a warm-up, these practice problems will actually show lots of imagery, color coding, and on top of that, they will be able to identify what the ratio is by using multiple choice. If students answer these questions correctly in a row, they will naturally be prompted to answer questions during level 2. In level 2, you can see that it's still the same exact directions. What's the ratio of total trapezoids to orange trapezoids? And we still continue to maintain the imagery and the color coding, but we have upped the rigor very subtly by taking away the multiple choice and having them actually have to show that they can identify what the ratio is using fractions as they have seen previously in the multiple choice option. If they consistently get these questions correct, then they will be prompted to move towards level 3 or higher, as many elementary school and middle school grade levels and skills have multiple levels of rigor and problem complexity. Here you're seeing level 3, we have upped the rigor subtly by taking away the imagery and the color coding and giving a word problem. And then on top of that, they have to be very great at identifying detail as their directions have changed. They no longer can write the ratio in fraction form like they have in level 1 and level 2, but now they have to write the ratio using a colon. As I mentioned, we are adaptive, so students will naturally adapt to higher levels of problem complexity or skill adaptation as they get questions correct. But if they happen to get to a level of problem complexity that might be a little too difficult for them, we will lower them naturally. Just like we have increased the rigor, we can decrease the rigor and bring them back down to level 2 and back down to level 1 until they gain confidence and understanding of the foundational concepts. And then on top of that, if any student gets a question incorrectly, they do have a feedback and explanation feature where it shows them what they answered versus what the correct answer is and how to solve it. I highly encourage using this feedback explanation portion as an I do, we do, you do to show students that it's not embarrassing if they make a mistake, that humans make mistakes, but what we do have to know and recognize is that we have to correct our mistakes and learn from their mistakes so that we can hopefully successfully move on and be proficient in each individual skill. And that brings me to our SMART score. As students are practicing, you're going to notice that students will get all different types of SMART scores. The first thing you need to know is that our SMART score is not a percentage. So it is out of 100, and so 75 out of 100 in a mathematical realm would seem like a 75%, but our SMART score is not a percentage because it is forgiving of mistakes. Students have the ability to reach 100 at all times. It is a very motivating proficiency scale, our SMART score. And students, no matter what, even if they miss multiple questions in a row and their SMART score goes from 75 all the way down to 32, they still, with perseverance and hard work, have the ability to go back and practice until they reach mastery or proficiency. Our SMART score is determined by these 4 variables: the number of problems answered correctly versus incorrectly, the number of problems answered total, the problem complexity or the different levels of rigor that each student is at, and also the consistency of correct answers. So the more consistent students are, the more likely they will whiz through the lower levels of problem complexity, getting to the higher levels of problem complexity. If students are at the higher levels of problem complexity, their SMART score will be closer to 100, which means they are nearing proficiency and or mastery. So this is the breakdown of our SMART score. You can see any skill from 0 to 69. Well, I guess not a skill, huh? Any SMART score that is from 0 to 69 is telling you as the teacher that the student still needs improvement. That means that that student that has a SMART score between 0 and 69 is still showing a lot of inconsistency and getting multiple questions incorrect. On top of that, that shows that they are still at the basic foundational review questions of a specific skill. So they're still at level 1 and level 2 of problem complexity. And then once they hit a SMART score of 70, students will receive an orange ribbon. When students receive an orange ribbon, that means that these students should still keep practicing. And that simply just means that in the 70s, they are now technically officially out of the foundational levels of problem complexity, such as level 1 and level 2, and they are now entering into the practice problems that are intermediate or mid-range levels of rigor, which is going to be the true meat and potatoes of the skill that these students would be tested on for standardized state testing. And of course, just because they are entering into the intermediate levels of rigor does not mean that they are proficient. So we want to encourage them to keep practicing through the 70s until they receive a SMART score of 80 or higher. When they receive a SMART score of 80, they will receive a blue ribbon that is technically proficient. If you would like to up the rigor or the expectation just a smidgen more to truly solidify that those students are proficient, you can up the rigor to a SMART score expectation of 85 to 89 for proficiency. And then if you do have those honors or AP students, or those students are high flyers or high achievers, we would hold them accountable to an expectation of a SMART score of 90, which is past proficiency into the excellence realm, where they receive a green ribbon. When they enter into the 90s and they receive their green ribbon, that means that they are now entered into the challenge zone. The challenge zone simply means that these students are now at the highest levels of rigor. They are being introduced to and answering all questions at the highest levels of problem complexity. And the kicker is that they have to actually answer all questions within the challenge zone correct in a row in order to finally hit mastery, a SMART score of 100. So if students do get through the challenge zone, which are the most rigorous questions we have to offer for a specific skill, you can be rest assured as a teacher that these students do truly know what is going on and they have indeed mastered this skill by receiving a gold medal. So again, our SMART score of 100 should always be the exception, never the expectation. So our students should be expected to hit proficiency levels and maybe pushed to hit excellence levels, but never should they be expected to hit mastery levels. That should always be a bonus, as 100 mastery is like an A+, and we would never have at the beginning of the year the expectation that all of our students have to hit an A+ in every single skill, every single assignment, quiz, unit test, exam, benchmark, etc., as that's a very high expectation. Awesome. So now that leads me to our IXL diagnostic. When students log in and they click on the diagnostic, it's very much so different and unlike a traditional benchmark. When students click on the diagnostic, it will truly ask them to have student choice and be engaged and take ownership over their educational journey. So once again, it's asking them to choose a question. We did that on purpose so students felt very comfortable choosing questions that they felt confident with, and they can ease into the diagnostic and they feel non-threatened, as it's not as much similar to a normal testing environment. Once students choose a question, IXL will slowly start pinpointing students' levels of understanding in both mathematical strands and 4 ELA strands. Students will start the diagnostic at the grade level that they're rostered in. So if students are rostered in 3rd grade, they will start the diagnostic at 3rd grade. If students are rostered in 6th grade, they will start the diagnostic at 6th grade. And if students are rostered at anything underneath 3rd grade, so pre-K through 2nd grade, they will start the diagnostic at a 3rd grade level. Now, don't be worried, as your pre-K students will start at a 3rd grade level, and obviously that's way more advanced than what they know. But on top of that, our IXL diagnostic is actually adaptive, so it adapts to each individual student. So it's almost like each student is taking a personalized diagnostic. And so with that, when students choose a question and afterwards, when IXL starts pinpointing and prompting them to answer questions within the 6 mathematical and 4 ELA strands, IXL will start adapting. So if your student is starting at a 6th grade level because they're rostered in 6th grade, but they're not so confident and they're not getting some questions correct, IXL will adapt and either lower the level of rigor to a 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade level, or vice versa. If they're doing really well, we will up the rigor to a 7th grade or an 8th grade level in order to truly pinpoint each individual student's levels of understanding. And then our continuous diagnostic is unlike traditional benchmarks, as you only need to take it once as a student. You do not need to take it in August or September and then again in December and then again in May. Instead, if you just dedicate at the very beginning of the school year to having your students answer about 100 to 120 questions for both math and ELA diagnostic, then they will ultimately receive full diagnostic results after the 100 to 120 questions. Our diagnostic is called the IXL Continuous Diagnostic for 2 reasons. It is going to continuously give you up-to-date data weekly, but also on top of that, it's also continuous and it never ends. So you cannot have your students log in, click on the diagnostic, and tell them to keep practicing until they've hit the last question, as there never will be a last question. Instead, we provide kind of a wheelhouse of how many questions it should take each student to actually get full diagnostic results. So as I mentioned, 100 to 120 questions for both math and ELA combined to get full diagnostic results, or if you would only like them to do math or only like them to do the ELA diagnostic, then you would only have to have students answer 60 to 70 questions. On top of that, because our IXL diagnostic does not ever end, we do not suggest that you have students sit there and answer 120 questions in one sitting, as each question takes about the average worker a minute per question. So 120 questions would be technically 120 minutes, so 2 whole hours to finish the diagnostic. Instead, we suggest you implement the diagnostic in small little bite-sized chunks. So it's up to you to determine how much what that looks like or how much time that looks like. And so I would suggest something as simple as during the first or second week of school, starting your students out by having them log into the diagnostic, have them choose a question, and then practice within the diagnostic each day, Monday through Friday for 1 week, 10 to 15 minutes a day. After 10 to 15 minutes a day, what you're going to see is that you will almost have every single student at full diagnostic results. If you need a couple more extra days the following week to kind of finish off the diagnostic, that is completely fine. But what that does is if you do it in bite-sized chunks, we no longer are doing what our old benchmarks used to do, which is take up instructional time, take up multiple days of instructional time, and then ultimately feel as though it's a waste of time. Instead, these are bite-sized chunks, almost something like an extended do now, where you're pinpointing each student's levels of understanding while still having at least 45 minutes to 65 minutes for the rest of your period to do your daily instruction. And then on top of that, here what you are seeing is an example of a fake student's ranges for their diagnostics. So here what we're seeing is Meredith. We're seeing that she has an overall math level in between this range of 700 and 860. We're seeing that it's breaking the math content down into 6 strands: numbers and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, fractions, geometry, measurement, data, statistics, and probability. As we can see, most students after the first 10 minutes will have really wide ranges, such as this one in measurement, and that is okay. The more students practice, the more these wide ranges will narrow down to smaller ranges and smaller ranges until ultimately they have a specific dot. When all of these have dots, that means that our students are done taking the diagnostic, and then IXL itself will maintain these dots and these pinpointed levels of understanding for the rest of the year. IXL does that by incorporating IXL diagnostic practice problems within the actual assignments and skill practice that you provide your students. Now, you probably are wondering, how do you read these numbers? So ideally, when all of these numbers or all these ranges are dots, you can then read each 3-digit number by identifying the first digit of the 3-digit number. This one is an example. The 3-digit number is 860, which is telling me that Meredith here, when it comes to algebra and algebraic thinking, is at an 8th grade level. Because the first digit is an 8 for 800, we now know that she is at an 8th grade level for algebra. And the 2-digit number behind the 8, the 60, means that Meredith knows 60% or 1/6 of her 8th grade algebra content. Also, students have the ability to click on any recommendations that are given to them based off of their responses in the diagnostic. And these recommendations are 100% correlated and aligned to exactly where students are at as of right now in real time within the diagnostic. When they click on these recommendations, it'll bring each student to their recommendations page. And as teachers, you also have a recommendations page in the exact same place. Here, what you're seeing is that they have a recommendations wall and they can scroll through this wall forever. It also does not end, just like our diagnostic and our skill practice. You're going to see that we have 6 different recommendations. We have recommendations from the diagnostic arena, which we've already seen, which is the little golf or arena flag here. We also have 5 different recommendations that are aligned and are recommended to students based off prior skill practice. The Try Something New skill is going to basically be exactly what it says. It's going to provide students with recommendations of skills they've never learned before or never practiced yet, just building that curiosity. The Work It Out skills are truly going to be the skills that are going to help students kind of close those learning gaps. It's going to say, hey, we've noticed that you are stuck on a specific skill because your SMART score is not improving. So we wanted to give you some foundational skills or review in order to build those building blocks, close those gaps, and build confidence so that you can be successful and proficient in the upcoming skill you originally were assigned by your teacher. The Keep At It skill is going to be the skill that is going to support students in being perseverant, and they're going to persevere through specific skills until they hit a SMART score of excellence, which is a SMART score of 90. The Go for Gold recommendation is going to assist students in actually pushing them towards receiving their gold medal and reaching for mastery, which is a SMART score of 100. And then the next step is going to be this recommendation that's going to build upon knowledge that students already know. Once they've hit a SMART score of 90 or higher, it will provide them with next up recommendations, which is going to add a little bit more rigor to the specific skill that they are currently practicing, once again extending their knowledge and building upon what they already know. We also have in-skill recommendations here as students are practicing. If they're not doing so well, it'll say not feeling ready yet. These can help, and then students can take ownership of their education and they can have choice by choosing a specific skill that best supports them and what they think will close their deficits or their gaps in order for them to be proficient in these foundational skills to go back to the original assignment and be proficient and maybe hopefully hit mastery as well. And if students hit a SMART score of 90 or higher, this will no longer say not feeling ready yet, these can help, but instead it'll say done for now, these are next up, and it will provide the student with next up skills to extend their knowledge. So now we're going to talk about the teacher analytics portion. The first thing I want to talk to you about when you click on analytics here is the diagnostic. If you click on the diagnostic tab, what you're going to see are there's going to be a math section and an ELA section. Here you're seeing that we have the overview. The overview is going to provide you with an overview of your whole class in both math and ELA. I'm actually going to show you in the live site. So if I click on analytics, go ahead and click on diagnostic. You're going to see that we have the option for both math and language arts. When you do so and it loads, you're going to see that you can actually see specific data depending on how your roster is set up. So different grade levels, if you teach different grade levels, or maybe different blocks, if you teach different periods, or maybe intervention versus homeroom, however you've created your roster. And then you can also click on specific subjects, math or language arts. Here we're seeing the overview for math. So these are all of my students and they're clumped together, and we can see their working ranges. We have the opportunity to print once all students have pinpointed their levels of understanding in the very beginning of the school year, to print all of their printouts so that we can monitor their pinpointed levels of understanding throughout the year. If you click on the stack of paper, that's going to print all students on your roster's diagnostic results. If you want individual students' diagnostic results, you can print on the side here. Also, the beneficial part of our IXL diagnostic is that we also can click on a specific strand. So if I go ahead and click on fractions, okay, here what we're seeing is, like I mentioned at the very beginning, we have 2 themes, the teacher theme and the student theme. This is supporting the teacher theme of small group instruction and differentiation. As you can see, my students are going to be grouped into small groups, and when I hover over them, I can see which students are in each group. Also, it's going to break down my students, and it's going to tell me their working ranges. Once students keep practicing, I will be recommended specific skills to support these students. Here you can see Lucy Branch has 2 recommendations, and if there were multiple students in this specific working level, I could also see that there would probably be more recommendations to support all of my students. And the same thing works for language arts. Here you're going to see 2 overall levels of understanding. You're going to see the ELA levels and their reading levels. And then you can see the 4 different strands that we have: grammar and mechanics, writing strategies, vocabulary, and reading strategies. And then what else I would like to talk to you about is our real-time center. The Real-Time Center is going to actually be all the way to the right-hand side of the Analytics tab, and I'll show you that in a second. But first I wanted to show you a screenshot of what it looks like, because I cannot show you in real time, in real life, what it looks like right now, because none of my fake students are practicing right now on IXL. So what I'm seeing here is the Real-Time Center. The Real-Time Center is going to be your best friend. I think it's the most amazing report. What it does is it's truly your second pair of eyes in the classroom. So what you're seeing is if you have 27 to 32 students in your classroom and all of them are logged into IXL, you will see 27 here, or 32 students that are practicing. And on top of that, you will see 32 or 27 different tiles or boxes for each one of your individual students practicing currently in IXL. Ideally, in the most perfect world, we would want all of our tiles to be white. White tiles mean that the student, Heidi Decker, is currently practicing, she's progressing, she's getting questions correct, and she's doing well, and she's on her way towards proficiency and mastery. We can see that in each tile, we are given a lot of information. We're giving a name, Heidi Decker, the grade level she's working in, grade 5, the skill code, Z30, the title, line segments, and raise, and how many questions she's answered, how many of the last 5 she's gotten correct, as these are all green dashes, which means she's answered all 5 correctly, and her most accurate, up-to-date SMART score in real time is a 59. And then sometimes we have those students who just don't understand the concept, and that is okay. And so we're going to have those students have red tiles or pink tiles with an exclamation mark in the upper right-hand corner. When they have an exclamation mark in the upper right-hand corner, that means that that student may need your help. And by may, we mean they definitely do need your help, even though they're not raising their hand or they're not coming to your desk. The reason why they might need your help is simply because they have missed 3 or more questions out of the last 5. So as you can see, the last 5 questions are here. 4 out of the 5 are red dashes, meaning they got it incorrect, and 1 is a green dash, meaning they got that 1 question correct. And then also it's showing you your specific SMART score down below, which is quite low. And then lastly, we do have gray tiles. When these gray tiles are going to show you the students who are idle. Students become idle after 5 minutes of practice, of inactive practice within IXL. So then it's up to your discretion to kind of peep your head up and make sure that both Maggie and Maria are diligently working, and or went to the restroom, or what you will probably find out is, you know, our sweet little angels sometimes get distracted, and so they are probably chit-chatting or a little bit off task. Awesome. So now what I want to talk to you about, there are multiple reports here that you can figure out on your own for now. And then once you have data in them and you start looking through them, you can definitely email me and I would be happy to explain each individual report to you using your specific data. But the other thing I do want to show you is our learning tab. All the way to the right-hand side, you do have awards. With the awards, you will have the opportunity to see specific certificates with your whole class or individual students. Here I'm going to click on an individual student such as Gordon. Now I can see that Gordon has achieved excellence in 5 geometry skills, or maybe excellence in 2 geometry skills, remembering that excellence is a SMART score of 90 or higher. So if I wanted to give this to him rather than buying candy or something as a positive incentive, I can just click on View Certificate. What we see here is that we have a certificate we can actually print out for Gordon and send home, put on their locker, put on the wall, or maybe just put on their desk. It gives us the date, it tells us why he's receiving this certificate of excellence, and on top of that, it is signed by our CEO, Paul Mishkin. And then lastly, students have math awards and language arts awards that they themselves can see within their student account. But if you would like to help them monitor that, you can click on this. And you can also click on the drop-down menu to see specific students' awards. You can monitor this and let Gordon know that he has 3 awards that he has yet to reveal. This one Gordon can reveal because he's answered 100 questions. This one he's received a prize because he's mastered 1 skill. And this one he also has a second prize because he's practiced for 5 minutes. And then lastly, I would like to show you about some of our extra resources. Our inspiration tab I think is very beneficial, especially these last 3 bullets. We have printables, IXL alignments, and some PD videos to best support you during your implementation of IXL. You can see that we have username and password cards for all of your students if you would like to print these out so they don't ever forget their username and passwords. We have a scavenger hunt for our students who are brand new to IXL who want to learn how to actually navigate the skill, and it's a fun little activity. We have customizable certificates if you would like to create those for students. Classroom goal posters, a parent handout that's really beneficial for teachers if they want to send it out to parents so parents are aware of what IXL truly is, and some really great, awesome progress charts. And then on top of that, we also have IXL alignments. If you have any, if you happen to use any of these math books, you can actually click on a specific grade level. So I'll click 5th grade. It will create a PDF for you. It'll say IXL skill alignment, 5th grade alignment to Eureka Math Common Core Curriculum. And then what you do see is the 5th grade math textbook sections here on the left-hand side and all the IXL skills that best support these textbooks in the book so that you can actually align IXL skill practice for your students to the textbook of your school. And then lastly, we do have some videos here that will best support you during some analytic tips that are about a minute long, continuous diagnostic tips, and some classroom spotlight videos of implementation strategies that past teachers have used in their classroom. Alrighty, well, that is almost everything. I think we went through everything except for a few of the analytic reports. So again, feel free to please contact me, as I would be more than happy to support you during your specific implementation of IXL for your classroom. Again, please just know that my email is Marcella, my first name, L for my last name, Labrador, at IXL.com, and I am your professional learning specialist for the rest of your partnership with IXL. Alrighty, have a great day.